The autumn air carried a gentle chill through the streets of London as the royal motorcade made its way through the city. Inside one of the sleek black vehicles, William sat quietly beside Kate, both dressed in their formal attire for what was supposed to be another routine royal engagement. Neither of them knew that within the next hour, they would create a moment so profound that it would ripple across the globe, touching millions of hearts and reminding the world why simple human kindness matters more than any crown or title. The Children's Hospital stood like a beacon of hope against the gray October sky. Its colorful murals on the exterior walls tried to mask the reality of what happened inside, the daily battles young souls fought against illnesses that no child should ever have to face. As the royal couple stepped out of their car, the usual fanfare greeted them. Photographers clicked away, security personnel maintained their positions, and hospital administrators waited nervously to guide their distinguished guests through the carefully planned visit. Kate smoothed down her navy blue dress, a thoughtful choice that wouldn't overwhelm the young patients with bright colors or patterns. William adjusted his tie and took a deep breath. These visits were never easy. Behind the smiles and waves, both of them carried the weight of knowing they were about to meet families going through their darkest hours. They had done this many times before, but it never got easier to see suffering, especially when it involved children. The hospital director, Margaret Thompson, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, stepped forward to greet them. Her hands trembled slightly as she shook hands with the future king and queen. She had worked at the hospital for 30 years, but royal visits still made her nervous. Not because of protocol or ceremony, but because she desperately wanted her young patients to have a memorable day, something bright in their often difficult journey. As they walked through the main entrance, the atmosphere inside was markedly different from the chaos outside. The hospital had tried to maintain normalcy for the children, not wanting to disrupt their routines more than necessary. Some parents clustered in small groups in the waiting areas, their faces showing the familiar exhaustion that came from spending nights in uncomfortable chairs beside their children's beds. Others walked the corridors with 4 poles, their young ones taking slow, determined steps as part of their recovery. William noticed a young mother sitting alone in a corner, her head in her hands. He nudged Kate gently, and she followed his gaze. Without words, they both understood. This visit was about more than cutting ribbons or making speeches. It was about human connection, about showing people that they were seen, that their struggles mattered. The tour began in the new wing that the Royal Foundation had helped fund. The walls were painted with cheerful scenes of underwater adventures, with smiling dolphins and colorful fish swimming across the corridors. Dr. James Harrison, the head of pediatric oncology, explained the latest equipment and treatments available, his voice filled with pride for his team's work. William asked thoughtful questions about survival rates and new research, while Kate inquired about the support services for families. But both of them kept glancing toward the patient rooms, knowing that the real purpose of their visit lay beyond the impressive machinery and statistics. They were here for the children and their families, to offer whatever comfort their presence could bring. The first stop was the playroom, where several children were engaged in various activities. Some were painting, others building with blocks, and a few were absorbed in video games. The moment William and Kate entered, some children looked up with curiosity, while others continued their activities, too focused or perhaps too tired to notice the visitors. A little girl named Emma, about 6 years old, with a pink bandana covering her head, was the first to approach. She walked up to Kate with the confidence that only children possess, holding out a drawing she had been working on. It was a picture of a princess with an impossibly large crown and a rainbow dress. "This is for you," Emma said simply, as if giving drawings to actual princesses was something she did every day. Kate knelt down to Emma's level, her eyes bright with genuine delight. "This is absolutely beautiful," she said, studying the drawing with the seriousness it deserved. "I love the rainbow dress. Did you know that rainbows are my favorite?" Emma's face lit up with a smile that could have powered the entire hospital. "Really? Mine too. They come after the rain, and my mommy says that means good things are coming after sad times." The profound wisdom from such a young soul momentarily took Kate's breath away. She glanced at William, who had also heard the exchange. He was already engaging with a group of boys who were eager to show him their Lego creation, but she could see in his eyes that Emma's words had touched him too. As they moved through the playroom, each child had a story. There was Marcus, a 10-year-old who proudly showed William his collection of football cards, explaining with great authority which players were the best and why. Despite the 4-line in his arm and the pallor of his skin, Marcus's enthusiasm for his favorite sport was undiminished. "Do you play football?" he asked William eagerly. "I do, though not as well as I used to," William replied with a self-deprecating smile. "My knees aren't what they used to be. But I still love watching it." "Who's your favorite team?" As Marcus launched into a detailed explanation of why his team was superior to all others, William listened with genuine interest, occasionally interjecting with his own opinions, creating a debate that had Marcus grinning from ear to ear. Meanwhile, Kate had found herself surrounded by a group of young artists who were eager to show her their creations. She admired each piece with careful attention, asking questions about color choices and subject matter. One boy, Thomas, had drawn a picture of his family, but there was an empty space where he explained his sister used to be. "She's an angel now," he said matter-of-factly, pointing to a figure with wings he had drawn in the clouds above the family. "But she still watches us. Mommy said so." Kate felt tears prick at her eyes but managed to maintain her composure. She placed a gentle hand on Thomas's shoulder. "What a beautiful way to keep her with you," she said softly. "She must be so proud of how brave you are." The visit continued to the individual patient rooms, where children who were too ill to join the playroom activities waited. This was always the hardest part. Behind each door was a family dealing with unimaginable challenges, children facing battles that seemed impossibly unfair. In one room, they met Oliver, a 12-year-old who had been in the hospital for 3 months. His mother, Sarah, stood by his bedside, dark circles under her eyes telling the story of countless sleepless nights. Oliver was awake but weak, his voice barely above a whisper when he greeted the royal couple. William pulled up a chair beside the bed, ignoring protocol that typically kept royal visits brief and standing. "I heard you're quite the cricket fan," he said to Oliver, who managed a small smile. "Used to play," Oliver whispered. "Before?" "Well, you'll play again," William said with quiet confidence. "And, when you do, I expect an invitation to watch. Deal?" Oliver's eyes widened slightly, and he nodded. His mother had to turn away, overwhelmed by the kindness of the gesture. Kate moved to stand beside her, offering a tissue from her purse without a word. Sometimes, the most powerful support came not from words but from simple presence. They spent nearly 20 minutes in Oliver's room, far longer than the schedule allowed. William told stories about his own cricket disasters, making Oliver laugh weakly. Kate chatted with Sarah, learning about their journey, their hopes, and their fears. She discovered that Sarah had 2 other children at home, and her husband was working extra shifts to cover the bills. "The hardest part," Sarah confided quietly, "is feeling like I'm failing everyone. I'm here with Oliver, but missing things with my other kids. My husband is exhausted. And Oliver, he just wants to be normal again." Kate listened without judgment, without offering platitudes. She simply held Sarah's hand and let her speak. When Sarah finished, Kate said, "You're not failing anyone. You're showing your children what love looks like in action. That's the most valuable lesson they could ever learn." As they prepared to leave Oliver's room, something unexpected happened. Oliver, who had barely been able to speak above a whisper, suddenly called out, "Wait." Everyone turned back. With tremendous effort, Oliver pushed himself up slightly in bed. "Thank you," he said, his voice stronger than it had been throughout the visit. For treating me like a normal kid. Not like I'm sick. Just normal." William moved back to the bed and did something that would later become the image seen around the world. He leaned down and embraced Oliver gently, carefully avoiding the medical equipment. It wasn't a formal handshake or a distant wave. It was a real, human embrace from one person to another. "You are normal, Oliver," William said, his voice thick with emotion. "You're just fighting something extra right now. But you're still you." Kate joined the embrace, creating a moment of connection that transcended all barriers of status, health, or circumstance. Oliver's mother captured the moment on her phone, not for social media or publicity, but because she saw her son's face transform. For the first time in months, he looked like the boy he had been before illness entered their lives. The visit was supposed to end there, but, as they walked back through the corridor, Kate noticed something that made her stop. In a small alcove near the nurse's station, a man sat alone. He was still in his work clothes, the uniform of a delivery driver, his head bowed, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Without hesitation, Kate broke away from the group and approached him. William followed, waving off the concerned looks from their security detail. The man looked up, startled to see the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge standing before him. "I'm sorry," he stammered, wiping his eyes quickly. "I didn't mean. I shouldn't be." "Please, don't apologize," Kate said gently, sitting down beside him on the bench. "Are you all right? Is there someone we can get for you?" The man, David, they would learn, shook his head. "My daughter, Lily. She's having surgery today. Her third one. She's only 7. His voice broke. "I'm supposed to be strong for her, for my wife. But, I needed a moment." William sat on David's other side, creating a protective circle around the distraught father. "Being strong doesn't mean not feeling," he said quietly. "It means feeling everything and still showing up. And you're here. You're showing up." David looked between them, seeming to fully realize who was sitting with him. "I can't believe, why would you?" "Because you're a father who loves his daughter," Kate said simply. "That's all that matters right now. Tell us about Lily." For the next 10 minutes, David talked about his little girl. How she loved to dance before she got sick. How she had named all the machines in her hospital room and created personalities for them. How she told jokes to the nurses to make them smile. As he spoke about his daughter, his face transformed, pride mixing with pain. "She sounds absolutely wonderful," Kate said when David paused. "And brave, just like her father." "I don't feel brave," David admitted. "I feel terrified all the time." William placed a hand on David's shoulder. "The fact that you feel terrified and still support her, still love her through it all, that's the very definition of bravery. Your daughter knows that. She sees it every day." A nurse appeared in the alcove, looking apologetic about interrupting. "Mr. Patterson? Lily's out of surgery. Everything went well. She's asking for you." David jumped to his feet, relief flooding his face. He turned back to William and Kate, seeming at a loss for words. Kate stood and embraced him. "Go to your daughter," she said. "Give her our best wishes for a speedy recovery." As David hurried away, he turned back one more time. "Thank you," he said, his voice steady now. "For seeing me. Just for seeing me." After he left, William and Kate stood in the quiet alcove for a moment. Their staff waited patiently, understanding that something significant had just occurred. This wasn't part of the planned visit, but it was perhaps the most important moment of the day. The images that emerged from that hospital visit spread across social media within hours. Not the official photographs of the royal couple touring the facilities, but the candid moments, William embracing Oliver, Kate sitting with David, both of them at eye level with the children, really listening, really present. But one image in particular captured the world's attention. It was taken by a nurse who had been documenting the visit for the hospital's newsletter. In it, William and Kate stood in the corridor after leaving David, their backs to the camera. Kate's head rested on William's shoulder, and he had his arm around her. It was a private moment of two people who had just witnessed both heartbreak and hope, drawing strength from each other to continue. The image went viral not because it showed royalty, but because it showed humanity. The comments poured in from around the world. Parents who had sat in similar hospital corridors saw themselves in David. Families battling childhood illness felt seen and validated. Healthcare workers shared their own stories of the quiet moments that made their difficult jobs worthwhile. One comment, from a mother in Australia whose child had survived leukemia, summed up what many felt: this is why representation matters. Not the crowns or the titles, but the reminder that we're all human. That our pain is seen, our struggles are valid, and that sometimes, the most powerful thing anyone can do is simply sit with us in our darkest moments. The impact rippled outward. Donations to children's hospitals spiked globally. Support groups for parents of sick children reported increased attendance, as people felt more comfortable seeking help. The hashtag #JustSeeMe began trending, with people sharing stories of moments when someone had simply acknowledged their struggle without trying to fix it. But, perhaps the most profound impact was on the families they had met that day. Oliver's mother posted updates about his progress, and, in each one, she mentioned how that embrace had changed something in her son. He had started fighting harder, engaging more with his treatment, because someone he admired had told him he was normal, just fighting something extra. David's daughter Lily recovered well from her surgery. Months later, he would share a video of her dancing again, twirling in a princess dress. For the two people who reminded me that bravery isn't about not being afraid, he captioned it, tagging the royal couple's official account. Emma, the little girl with the rainbow drawing, continued her treatment with her characteristic optimism. Her mother reported that she had hung the photo of her with Kate on her hospital room wall, and every difficult day, she would look at it and remember that even princesses love rainbows, and that good things come after rain. The hospital itself was transformed by the visit. Staff reported a shift in morale, not just from the royal presence, but from witnessing the genuine connections made. Dr. Harrison later said in an interview, "We see tragedy every day here. But that visit reminded us that we also see incredible strength, love, and resilience. It reminded us why we do what we do." Margaret Thompson, the hospital director, implemented new programs based on what she had observed during the visit. More spaces for parents to have private moments, like the alcove where David had found refuge. Expanded art therapy programs, recognizing how creativity had connected the children with their visitors. And, most importantly, training for staff on the importance of seeing the whole person, not just the patient. The royal couple themselves were profoundly affected by the visit. In subsequent appearances, there was a noticeable shift in how they approached their duties. They spent longer with individuals, sat more often rather than standing, and weren't afraid to show emotion. They had always been compassionate, but now there was an added depth to their interactions. William later spoke about the visit in a mental health awareness campaign. "That day at the hospital reminded me that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply be present," he said. Not to have answers or solutions, but to acknowledge that life can be hard, that it's okay to struggle, and that no one should face their battles alone. Kate incorporated the lessons from that day into her early childhood development work. She often spoke about Emma's rainbow analogy, using it to help parents understand that children process difficult experiences with remarkable wisdom if given the space to do so. The ripple effects continued for years. Oliver did return to cricket, and, true to his word, William attended one of his matches, arriving quietly without fanfare, just keeping a promise to a brave young man. Lily became a dancer, her father David in the audience for every recital, no longer afraid to cry tears of joy. Emma grew up to become an art therapist, helping other children express their feelings through creativity. But, beyond these individual stories, something fundamental had shifted. The image of William and Kate in that hospital corridor became a symbol of what leadership could look like, not distant and perfect, but close and human. It sparked conversations about empathy in public life, about the importance of seeing people in their fullness, not just their roles or circumstances. Healthcare workers around the world began sharing their own stories of powerful moments with patients and families. Teachers talked about really seeing their struggling students. Business leaders discussed the importance of acknowledging the human challenges their employees faced. The simple act of two people choosing to be fully present with those who were suffering had reminded everyone of our shared humanity. The visit had been scheduled for 2 hours. It lasted nearly 4. The carefully planned itinerary had been set aside in favor of authentic connection. And, in doing so, William and Kate had demonstrated a truth that resonated across all boundaries: sometimes the softest moments have the most powerful impact. Years later, when historians would write about the modernization of the monarchy, they would point to this day as a turning point. Not because of any grand proclamation or policy change, but because two people had shown that true nobility lies not in titles or traditions, but in the ability to sit with another human being in their pain and simply say, "I see you. You matter. You're not alone." The Children's Hospital in London became a place of pilgrimage of sorts. People would come to see the playroom where Emma had given her rainbow drawing, the room where Oliver had received his embrace, the alcove where David had found comfort. But what they were really coming to see was hope, the hope that in our darkest moments, someone might see us, really see us, and remind us that we're all connected in our struggles and our strength. The soft moment in that hospital corridor, captured in a single photograph, had indeed created a powerful impact. It moved the world to tears not of sadness, but of recognition. Recognition that beneath all our differences, we share the same fears, the same hopes, the same need for connection. And, sometimes, the greatest gift we can give each other is simply our presence, our acknowledgement, and our shared humanity. As the sun set on that October day, William and Kate returned home changed by what they had witnessed and been part of. They had gone to a hospital to fulfill a royal duty and had instead been reminded of something far more important, that every human interaction is an opportunity to create light in someone's darkness, to be the rainbow after someone's rain. The world had watched two future monarchs become simply William and Kate, two people who understood that true power lies not in position but in compassion, not in distance but in connection. And, in showing this, they had given everyone permission to do the same, to see and be seen, to offer and accept comfort, to remember that we are all, in our own ways, both broken and beautiful, struggling and strong. The tears that flowed around the world were tears of gratitude, gratitude for the reminder that we need not face our battles alone, that there is no shame in struggling, and that sometimes the most profound act of service is simply showing up as ourselves, ready to witness another's journey with open hearts and gentle presence. In that soft moment, captured forever in pixels and memory, the world had been reminded of what it means to be truly human. And that impact would ripple outward for generations to come, touching lives in ways that no one could have imagined when a royal motorcade arrived at a children's hospital on an ordinary October morning that became anything but ordinary.